Add legendary ball coach Steve Spurrier to the list of people mocking Nebraska's Matt Rhule for canceling spring football. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button down below, and that way you won't miss a single episode. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head on over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert. So, more criticism for Nebraska. We have the latest in the Big Ten men's basketball tournament. We'll talk about that. Are you ready for a field of 76 instead of 68 for March Madness? I'm not either, but it's coming. Plus, we'll have our Big Ten classics, all that coming up right here. But first, you can add former legendary football coach and Heisman Trophy winner Steve Spurrier to the growing list of people ripping Nebraska coach Matt Rhule's decision to cancel the spring game. So far, Michigan coach Sherrone Moore, Michigan AD Ward Manuel, and Clemson coach Dabo Swinney have been critical of the Huskers' decision. We've talked about it here on the podcast. Some have been more vocal about it than others. A few others have been a little more veiled, but you get their point. But Spurrier kind of took it to the next level a little bit. He's always been good for a quote, and he is critical of the whole Nebraska spring scene. So I'll tell you what the old ball coach had to say in just a moment. First, a quick recap in case you're not totally up to speed. If you're an everydayer here, you are. So look, Matt Rhule says playing the annual spring game, which the Huskers drew 60,000 fans at Memorial Stadium in this game last year. Everybody wanted to see then freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola. I did too. I was locked in on the Big Ten Network watching it. And he feels like, hey, we're just putting our players on display for other teams to scout, then tamper, then poach them away in the transfer portal, in the spring transfer portal. While in-person scouting is against NCAA rules, these spring games are on national TV. Nebraska's was on the Big Ten Network. Fox aired Ohio State's game on national television last year. It's big-time spring football programming. Rhule says that he lost 6 players the Monday after the spring game. The last day of the spring transfer portal. They walked in and says, hey, guy saw me on TV, likes what I do. Maybe give me some name, image, and likeness money. Anyway, coach, it's been real. I'm out of here. I'm hitting the transfer portal. 6, half a dozen players. Now, he also wants to keep his guys healthy. He did lose 2 players to season-ending injuries in the spring game last year. Just for an exhibition game, he doesn't think it's worth it at this point. He wasn't alone. There were some other schools that canceled spring games like Texas and USC and Missouri and Ohio State. Those schools all announced around the same time, and it kind of felt like that maybe this was going to be a big trend. And I remember thinking this at the time, oh, every day I'm reading a new announcement. A new school is canceling their spring game. I was bracing for many more to come, but it seemed like that was it. It was just a bunch of them, and that was it. Kind of stop there. And I'm glad to say that most schools will continue with their spring football plans. Coaches like Sherrone Moore and Dabo Swinney, they say, look, everybody's players are going to get tampered with. So no matter what you do. So you might as well have your spring game. Get some work done. Get a head start on your depth chart. Give some third string players a chance to experience playing in a game day situation at their home stadium. But not Matt Rhule and Nebraska. He don't want to do it. So what they are going to do on April 26th, where they normally would have the spring game, they are trying to put together Husker games is what they're calling them. A fan-friendly event at the end of spring practice. They're still having spring practice. They're just not going to have the game for the whole world to see. There'll be activities inside of Memorial Stadium. There will be a soccer match versus Wyoming at Hibner Stadium. There will be a spring volleyball match versus Kansas at the Bob Devaney Sports Center. even the volleyball team is having a spring game. Maybe we should have a football game. Ultimately, the football players do something similar to the NFL Pro Bowl weekend. Skills contest, 7-on-7 drills. Fans will be able to watch it, cheer on their players, all that kind of thing. So what did the old ball coach Steve Spurrier have to say about the Husker games, as they're calling them? He was on another duly noted podcast, and he said, he thinks, you can just tell by his demeanor, he thinks it's a joke. He says they're going to have passing and kicking contests, and they shook his head in disbelief and says, I don't think I'm going to be attending that. That doesn't seem to excite him very much. You can tell that he doesn't think this is the best use of time for spring football. That's all that really needs to be said. Look, I'm sympathetic to how Matt Rhule feels. I like Matt Rhule. I like watching Nebraska football. I like watching their program grow under him. But, if you try to walk in his shoes, given what he experienced last year, I can see where he's coming from. I really can. But I really hope that a small handful of teams that are canceling these spring football games, I hope they change their mind. And maybe they will at a school like Ohio State. Ryan Day, well, maybe not. Ryan Day said, look, man, we just played 16 games. I'm not playing another one here in the spring. And then as I'm sitting here thinking, well, maybe next year they'll bring it back. Well, Ohio State might be good and be playing multiple games again in the postseason. I don't know. Maybe spring football games are done at Ohio Stadium at Ohio State. Maybe. Same thing with the Texas Longhorns. They played in a lot of postseason games lately, and they're one of the schools that canceled. USC, I think they canceled it because there wasn't a lot of fan interest in it in the springtime anyway, even though they have huge crowds on Saturday in the fall. I don't know. I think that was part of it as well. Missouri, I don't know what their deal was. They didn't want to do it as well. Those are about the only ones, really. Hopefully they'll change their minds and bring spring football back. I think it's valuable for media types like me to watch, coaches to watch their players, fans to get a head start on what their football team is going to look like in the fall and cheering them on. I hope they bring it back. So look, and that includes Nebraska. I hope Matt Rhule changes his mind. He said, I don't think he's going to change his mind unless there's some outside pressures. They had 60,000 people there. There's the fourth most attended spring game, kind of a moneymaker. So, he said until we change this spring transfer portal, he's not going to change his mind. And by the way, I agree with him there too. I don't like two different transfer portals. I think, and coaches proposed this, and I think it was a unanimous vote. I don't know if it's not going to be put into place yet. They're like talking about, look, we'll do a transfer portal right in between fall and winter semester, like early January. You're done with the semester, you're done with the season, make it a little later. Right now it's the beginning of December. You still got bowl games, you still got playoff games, you're still finishing your exams, if that's important to anybody. Make it a little later in January. The semester's done, the season's done, no kids. Like Bo Perbula have to make any tough choices. Hey, I'm in I got to hit the transfer portal. I want to play. Oh, but here I am with my team, Penn State. We're going to the playoffs. I got to miss all this. Don't put a kid in that position. Let's change that a little bit. Let's mix it up. Back to Spurrier. Having covered him myself as a sportscaster back in the day, I always did enjoy his wit and his sound bites, but I'm sure his Florida Gators would have never missed an opportunity to play in a spring game and replace it with some sort of Florida fan fest. That I'm pretty sure of. Hey, be sure to subscribe. It's free, and you never miss an episode. Just click the button, and you're good to go. Follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And if you don't mind, could you share, follow, and like? That really helps us out. Thank you very much. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there when we're done with them. They're in chronological order. We group them by teams as well. Spent a lot of time talking about Nebraska. This will be filed away under Nebraska. And you Husker fans, if you want some Husker shirts and hats and pennants, go to the website. There's a link right next to the podcast where you can buy your favorite Big Ten school merchandise, no matter what school you follow, right there. TalkBig10.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at TalkBig10 as well. Still a lot I want to do here. There are some interesting stories out there. I've been following, and one of them, there's a Michigan State football player. He's going to skip the pro day when the NFL comes to watch. We'll tell you why. We'll have the latest on the Big Ten basketball tournament. And do you want to see a field of 76? They're talking expansion again. That's the only idea they know is expansion for the NCAA tournament. Plus, we'll have our classics, all that coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Monarch Money. Let me tell you about it. You ever check your bank account and wonder, man, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you just you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. And you're going to look at this and you're going to realize just how much money you spend on food or food delivery. You got all this convenience in one place instead of juggling multiple apps or making monthly payments on this app or checkbook here. Pull it all together. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever as well. Both be on the app as well. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Let me tell you about Factor Meals. If you're looking to optimize nutrition this year, Factor makes eating healthy. It makes it easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto. Plus, Factor also offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled up all day long. And it takes all the stress out of meal planning. You come home from work, and like, oh, what am I going to have? Oh, you got this. So check it out. They got great things like the Protein Plus meals, if that's what you're into, packed with flavor. And the convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess. Just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started with factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off and use the code LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's LockedOnCollege50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off free shipping on your first box. I want to tell you about this. This is an interesting story before we get into the Big Ten tournament. We'll talk some Michigan State football in just a second. But I also want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. Hit that subscribe button down below. Share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And check out our website, talkbig10.com. All right, so there is a Michigan State football player that is skipping his pro day at East Lansing. Linebacker Cal Haladay. Cal Haladay is going to skip it. He said, you know what? I'm done with football. I've been playing football for 5 years here. I'm out. I'm done. I'm going to pursue a chemistry career instead. And by the way, he was a chemistry major, if you didn't figure that out, at Michigan State. And he's got a job lined up already. So he's good to go. After the 5-year football career, he's going to just put the pads down. He was a 3-star recruit. He was brought in by Mike D'Antonio and was in the first class to play for Mel Tucker. So he's been there a while, and he was a freshman All-American right away. Fans will remember his pick 6 of the Peach Bowl versus Pitt. Fans will remember his pick 6 against Indiana that same season. He finished his career with 365 tackles, 27 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, 3 defensive touchdowns. Got that chemistry degree. Talk about student athlete. There's a perfect example of it right there. All right, let's talk about the men's basketball tournament for the Big Ten. First of all, yesterday, Northwestern ended up beating Minnesota 72-64. Nick Martinelli had 28 points in this game. It is the first tournament win for Northwestern since 2022. They will play Wisconsin today, Thursday. We'll recap that in a minute as well. Iowa, they ended up winning against Ohio State 77-70. That game was tied at the half. Peyton Sandfort, 17 points. Brock Harding, 3 for 3 from three-land off the bench. They will play Illinois next. And USC taking on Rutgers. I will tell you this, full disclosure, the game is on right now as we're taping this Wednesday night for Thursday morning. Right now, 11 minutes to go. USC up 52-49 over Rutgers. Close game. They had a 10 double-digit lead just a few minutes ago. So as we were taping it. So more on that in a moment. So Thursday, today, we've got Indiana. They got their game against 23rd ranked Oregon. They had just played a tight one a couple of weeks ago out at Oregon. They go at 12 noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Oregon fans out there on the West Coast, get ready for some morning basketball. Maybe you've already watched it here this morning. Oregon was a 1.5 favorite in that game. Northwestern that we mentioned won their game. They're now playing Wisconsin, 2:30 Eastern time. And then Iowa, as we mentioned, they won. So they get to play 24th ranked Illinois. Illinois is getting healthy. Guys are coming back from injury. A bunch of guys were sick. Illinois, watch this team. That game's on at 6:30 Eastern on the Big Ten Network. And whoever wins this game, and by the time you're watching this podcast, you'll know. Rutgers and USC, the winner of this game, takes on 20th ranked Purdue, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 o'clock Pacific on the Big Ten Network. By the way, Braden Smith, first team All-American for the Boilermakers. And then Friday, the winner of today's Oregon-Indiana game taking on 7th-ranked Michigan State. That's at 12 noon. That's when all the teams that got the double bye start playing, like Michigan State, 12 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. UCLA will play its game at 2:30 against an opponent to be determined. Maryland will play at 6:30 Friday against a team to be determined. And Michigan, also getting that bye, 9 o'clock game tomorrow night, Friday night, against an opponent to be determined. Then the semifinals, Saturday at 1 o'clock and 3:30 Eastern. And then Sunday's final will be at 3:30 on, I believe, CBS, right? And that'll lead right into Selection Sunday. We all find out how many Big Ten teams we get into the NCAA tournament. What we get? 9, 10? I don't know. We'll find out Sunday night. We'll be podcasting about it as well. Now, as we look ahead to the NCAA tournament, it's expanded to 68 with the play-in games. I know they don't like calling them the play-in games. And I was fine with 68. I'm fine with 64, actually. In fact, I'd prefer 64. I don't need the Tuesday and Wednesday games. However, they're there, not going away. Then there are a bunch of people that always want to expand that. We always talk about, hey, do we expand the football playoff? Well, people want to expand the basketball tournament as well. I mean, one of the best run things in all of sports. I wouldn't touch it. Expansion hurts everything, whether it be football or basketball. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark said at the Big 12 tournament that he thinks the men's NCAA basketball tournament will vote this spring to expand the field to 76. And says he's all for it. These guys never learn. More and bigger is not better. With all due respect, this is the most idiotic idea. And I'm not picking on Yormark because others are saying the same thing. That's why there's going to be a vote on this. But these pinheads at the top of the athletics, all they know one thing is just expand, more, bigger. Stop it. We're on the record here on this podcast. Everydayers will attest. The playoffs should have stayed at 4. Going to 12 was a mistake, in my opinion. And in case you didn't notice all the blowouts leading up to the semifinals, I did. And those teams probably aren't going to win a natty anyway. And particularly in basketball, you think the 75th or 76th ranked team in a hypothetically expanded college basketball tournament, you think they're going to win a national championship? That's what the whole purpose of this is. No, they're not winning it. The 76th team is not going to win the national championship. So don't waste my time. If we expanded and used today's rankings today, George Mason and St. Joseph's out of the Atlantic 10, they're the 75th and 76th ranked team in the country right now. Rutgers, Nevada, TCU, and Bradley would be the first 4 out. Can you imagine us talking about the first 4 out, teams 77 through 80? That's how ridiculous this is. Those would be the top seeds in the NIT. Not one of those teams is capable of winning a national championship right now. Don't put them in. Sorry, Rutgers. None of those teams could beat Duke or Auburn or Houston or Florida. No way. So, your marketing company, stop wasting my time. Be better, please, please. All right, coming up, we're going to take a look at our Big Ten Classics and live action heading into the weekend. We always do that on Thursdays. So we'll take a look and we'll see what interests you. There's some great stuff here wrapped around the Big Ten tournament, all that coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. It's tax time. So let me tell you this message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. I personally have used them for like 20 years. I wouldn't dare do this stuff myself. Taxes, I used to be me doing taxes. It was like waiting and wondering and worrying if you get any money back, if you're doing it right, making any mistakes, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. That's what it was like. Now taxes is matching a TurboTax expert who could do your taxes as soon as today. That's right. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. So all you get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is how taxes are now. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. That's TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, let's take a look at what's coming up on the Big Ten Network this weekend. We'll weave in and out of some of their programming and also take a look at games and coverage and all that kind of stuff, because all that stuff's on various networks. So we will pick it up with Friday, March 14th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on the Big Ten Network. They got Big Ten Live. It's a basketball tip-off show. You tune in, get all the heads up from everything going on before it all gets started. And then at 12 o'clock Eastern, the tournament quarterfinal, that game number one, the quarterfinal number one, that will be a team to be determined against Michigan State. That's what we mentioned a few minutes ago, the 12 o'clock game against the Spartans. That'll be the winner of Oregon versus Indiana. At 2:30, the second quarterfinal game, team to be announced, will take on UCLA. And then they're going to do on the Big Ten Network at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, the Big Ten tip-off show, getting you ready for the later games. Quarterfinal 3, Maryland, who awaits its opponent. And then the 9 o'clock game Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, will be Michigan versus an opponent to be determined later. So that's how an exciting Friday shapes up. Let's look at Saturday, March 15th. The Ides of March. They started off at 12:30 on the Big Ten Network, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. With their live basketball tournament semifinals pregame show, all the latest news, get you ready to go for the day. And then other networks take over the actual game. So they're going to slide in some Big Ten hockey. If you want to watch that, 6 o'clock at night, 8:30 Eastern as well at 6 o'clock. The Big Ten tournament semifinal for men's ice hockey, Notre Dame at Michigan State, and then later Penn State versus Ohio State. And Sunday, March 16th, a couple of things that you'll find interesting. At noon Eastern, they're going to run The Big Story. Tom Izzo back home again, all-access documentary that follows Coach Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans as they return to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to play an exhibition game against his alma mater, Northern Michigan University. That obviously was much earlier in last year. At 12:30, they got The Journey, Big Ten basketball. You can watch Michigan native Jaden Atkins participating in the Spartan tradition of kissing the floor And also Brooks Barnheiser says goodbye to the Northwestern home crowd at his last game. And he was out with the injury as well. Michigan's Vlad Golden, you can watch this, celebrating his senior day with his Russian parents. This was great. Kind of a happy and sad, mixed emotions. He hadn't seen his family in 5 years. They were over in Russia. Had to come see him. So it was a great story. You can kind of see the behind the scenes stuff with that. That'll be awesome right there. And you can check all that out. And then at 1 o'clock Eastern, we got Big Ten basketball in 60. They're going to play one of the semifinal games. And then at 2 o'clock, Big Ten basketball in 60, the other semifinal. So if you miss them on Saturday, Sunday, you want to break them down, watch them in an hour, just from play to play, all edited together. 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. Then they'll have their 3 p.m. Big Ten live show, championship pregame for the Big Ten championship game. Give you everything you need to know right before tip-off. Again, it's on another net. The actual game's on an actual network at 3:30. And then they'll come back and recap it. That and everything at 7 o'clock. Big Ten Live, the bracket breakdown for the entire NCAA tournament. CBS has the exclusive rights in the 6 o'clock hour. And then at 7 o'clock, boom, everybody's going, including the Big Ten Network at 7 o'clock. So you can check all that out as well. And that should help you plan your entire weekend TV-wise right there. All things Big Ten all the time. Hey, there are many ways for you to interact with this podcast. There's Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten. There's our website, talkbig10.com. Be sure to subscribe down below and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app and to get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it's available each and every day. You don't want to miss a single episode. And tell your friends about us that we're out here each and every day. This is the only podcast that is a Big Ten podcast, audio and video, all 18 teams, plus the news, plus opinion and analysis. All of it right here, plus you. So check us out, Locked On Big Ten. And for a second listen, I have my friends Isaac Shade and Andy Patton with Locked On College Basketball. This is their wheelhouse time. Check them out as well. Find them on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Well, that'll do it for us. Once again, thank you for joining us. I never take our time for granted, and I can't wait to meet again tomorrow. A lot of football, obviously Big Ten basketball still going on with the tournament. All that right here in one place. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll talk to you next time.